Welcome to Her True Stories, where every journey unveils the raw truth of resilience and redemption, stitched together with the threads of life's toughest moments. If you're ready to travel through a tale of heartbreak turned to triumph, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from today. I'm Margaret Maggie Harper, a 70-year-old travel agency tycoon. And this is my story of being cast aside by my cousin Daniel and his wife Claire during a family holiday. I funded only to rise stronger, uncovering their deceit and reclaiming my wanderlust. Buckle up for a voyage that'll take you from the peaks of hope to the depths of betrayal, with a twist that'll keep you glued till the end. My name is Margaret Harper, and at 70, I thought I'd seen every corner of the globe. For 40 years, I built Harper Horizons from a cramped office in Boise, Idaho, into a travel empire spanning 15 agencies across the U.S., crafting dream vacations with my own hands. The journey began in a tiny room with peeling wallpaper, where the hum of a single-desk fan battled the summer heat, and I sketched itineraries on yellowed paper with a pencil stub. I created safari adventures through the golden savannas of Kenya, where the air vibrated with the calls of wildebeest and the distant roar of lions. The dust clinging to my boots as I guided wide-eyed tourists. I orchestrated cruises along the Amalfi Coast, where the turquoise waves kissed ancient cliffs, the salty breeze mingling with the scent of lemon groves. And I stood at the rail, notebook in hand, ensuring every detail was perfect. Ski trips in Aspen followed, where the snow crunched under my boots. I taught novices to glide down slopes, my breath visible in the crisp air. The scent of airplane coffee, the roar of jet engines as they powered down runways. The tangy salt of ocean breezes, these were the soundtrack to my life. A melody of adventure I shared with my late husband, Tom. Tom was a pilot, his grin lighting up the cockpit like a beacon, his hands steady on the controls as we flew to every destination. We met when he delivered a charter flight for one of my early tours, his uniform crisp, his eyes twinkling with mischief. We married 6 months later, turning business trips into love stories, dancing in hotel rooms to the tune of Distant Traffic in Tokyo, sharing midnight snacks of croissants in Paris, planning routes over maps spread across our kitchen table in Boise. He'd laugh as I corrected his navigation, his voice a warm rumble. "Maggie, you're the real captain here." When he passed 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, the world lost its color, the skies dimmed without his laughter. I sold the company for $20 million, a fortune that felt hollow without him to share it, and retired to a quaint cabin in the Sawtooth Mountains of Idaho. The cabin, with its log walls weathered by time, a stone fireplace that crackled with pine logs, and windows framing the jagged peaks, became my sanctuary. The air there carried the earthy scent of pine, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves or the occasional howl of a wolf. A stark contrast to the chaos of airports and hotel lobbies. But nothing prepared me for the sting of family betrayal, delivered by my cousin Daniel and his wife Claire, on what should have been our joyous holiday reunion. It began with a call last December, the air crisp with the promise of snow, the kind that blankets the mountains in a hush so deep you can hear your own heartbeat. Daniel, my cousin since childhood, his voice warm with nostalgia from our days building snow forts in our grandparents' backyard in rural Idaho, said, "Maggie, let's do a family holiday Hawaii this time. The whole clan your treat, like the old days when we'd pile into Grandpa's station wagon." The windows fogged with our breath had always been the glue. The one who funded family gatherings, Thanksgiving cruises along the Mississippi, where the paddle wheel churned through misty waters, the deck slick with dew. Summer cabins by Lake Tahoe, where the kids splashed in the shallows, their laughter echoing off the rocks. Christmas trips to New York, where we skated at Rockefeller Center, the ice glittering under holiday lights. I'd poured $25,000 in travel vouchers from my agency's reserves into their joy. A legacy of love I thought would bind us forever. At 45, Daniel had a successful carpentry business, crafting oak tables and cherry cabinets with the same care Grandpa taught us. His workshop filled with the scent of sawdust and varnish. But Claire, 42, A social climber with a penchant for designer luggage, Louis Vuitton suitcases stacked like trophies in their foyer. Each one a badge of her status, seemed to steer their ship. She had a sharp edge, her smile calculated, her eyes always scanning for the next upgrade, her voice carrying a hint of impatience when plans didn't align with her vision. I agreed, envisioning sunsets over Waikiki, the sky ablaze with orange and pink, my 70-year-old knees creaking as I danced with nieces and nephews, the ukulele music filling the air with aloha, the scent of plumeria flowers lingering on the breeze. I spent weeks planning booking a luxury resort with oceanfront suites, the kind with private balconies overlooking the Pacific, arranging luau's with roasted pig turning on spits, hula dancers swaying in grass skirts, and even packing a floral dress I'd saved for a special occasion. The dress, with its hibiscus pattern in soft reds and yellows, reminded me of a trip Tom and I took to Maui, where we'd walked hand in hand along the beach, the sand warm between our toes. I folded it carefully into my suitcase alongside sunscreen, a guidebook to Hawaiian trails, and a pair of sunglasses I hadn't worn since Tom's last flight. The night before departure, I was in my cabin, folding clothes. That night, insomnia gripped me, the cabin's silence deafening, broken only by the wind whistling through the pines, a mournful tune that mirrored my heart. I lay in bed, the quilt Tom's mother had sewn pulled tight, staring at the ceiling where shadows danced like ghosts of happier times. Memories flooded back, Daniel and I as kids, racing down snowy hills on sleds, his laughter ringing out as we crashed into drifts, our mittens soaked. Tom and I on that Maui trip, holding hands as the sun dipped into the ocean, promising to travel forever, his fingers tracing the horizon. Now that promise felt broken, the horizon a distant memory. By morning, hurt drove me to Claire's Instagram, public of course, for her travel influencer persona, a curated life of luxury she flaunted with every post. Photos flooded in, Daniel in a Hawaiian shirt, his grin wide as he posed by a waterfall, the mist clinging to his hair. Claire sipping a Mai Tai, her nails painted a tropical pink, the resort pool glittering behind her like a jewel. Their kids building sandcastles, their laughter captured in midair, the sand golden under the tropical sun. The caption read, "Family Getaway Vibes." Hashtag Harper Holiday, hashtag Paradise Found. No mention of me. No trace of the woman who'd made it possible. My $25,000 vouchers erased from their narrative. Tears stung my eyes. The floral dress mocking me from its hanger. The suitcase still open on the floor, a silent testament to my exclusion. I'd imagined toasts on the beach, the salt air mingling with the clink of glasses. Family photos with the ocean as backdrop, the roar of waves blending with our voices, the ukulele strumming a melody of unity. Now I was an outsider in my own legacy, a footnote in their glossy tale. The pain was a physical ache, a knot in my chest that refused to loosen. It's kind of hurt that lingers like the aftertaste of spoiled wine. A week later, as the sting festered like an unhealed blister, Claire called. Her voice was syrupy, dripping with false sweetness, a stark contrast to the cold text that had severed our bond. "Maggie, the trip was divine sun sand. Perfect memories, but we're short on funds. Can you send $2,000 for souvenirs? You forgot last month's support." Forgot. I'd never missed a payment. My ledger meticulous as a flight manifest. Every dollar accounted for in a notebook I kept by the cabin's phone. I steadied myself, voice firm as I gripped the receiver, the wood cool under my palm. "Claire, I only help those who invite me. Goodbye." The line went silent, the hum of disconnection, a final note. But the texts began, Daniel begging, "Maggie, please, we're in debt." His words punctuated by typos from trembling fingers. Claire whining, "This is cruel." Her messages laced with emojis that felt like mockery. I muted them, stepping outside, the snow crunching underfoot like brittle promises, the cold biting at my cheeks. For the first time, I noticed the mountain's beauty, the jagged peaks dusted with white, the deep green of the pines standing tall against the gray sky, the quiet strength of the land, not their needs, but my own moment of peace, a breath of freedom in the frigid air. Back inside, I tallied it at my kitchen table. The wood scarred from years of map drawing with Tom. The surface etched with the outlines of continents we'd explored together. 25,000 vouchers for the Hawaii trip, a sum that had drained my agency reserves. $24,000 in past trips, $1,000 monthly for 3 years to fund their vacations to Disney World. The Grand Canyon, a ski lodge in Colorado. $5,000 in gift-plane tickets for their anniversaries. Toys for the kids' birthdays. A new camera for Daniel's carpentry photos that he'd showcased on his workbench. Over $54,000 from my retirement earned through decades of jet lag. Missed holidays with Tom. Client tantrums soothed with a smile as I stood in crowded terminals. My suitcase always packed. For what? To be called burdensome by a cousin I'd cradled as a baby? Rocked to sleep when his mother was too sick to rise? Fed soup from my own kitchen when he had the flu? The numbers stared back. A ledger of my generosity and their ingratitude, a stark contrast to the love I'd poured into every voucher, every flight. Tom's voice echoed in my mind, soft and steady as we planned a route to Rome. His hand on mine as we traced the Tiber River on a map. "Maggie, family's your compass," he'd said, his eyes crinkling with affection. But this compass pointed to greed, its needles spinning wildly, leading me astray. I sat there, the fire's embers dying, the room growing cold, and felt a resolve harden within me. A steel spine forged in the fire of betrayal. 10 days later, they arrived at my cabin, 2 SUV's tires grinding snow into slush, headlights slicing the dusk like blades, their beams reflecting off the icicles hanging from the eaves. My heart raced, a drumbeat against my ribs, the sound echoing in the quiet as I stood by the window. But the trip-tracking security I'd installed after odd visits, missing travel logs from my office safe, cash from a jar by the door that I'd kept for emergencies, showed them on my porch cam. The feed flickered to life, the green light blinking like a heartbeat. Daniel, 45, disheveled, his flannel shirt unbuttoned to reveal a stained undershirt. His short hair mussed as if he'd run his hands through it in frustration. Claire, 42, in sunglasses despite the fading light. Her sharp features set in a scowl, her designer coat pristine against the snow. And a suited man, Mr. Larson, their lawyer, 50. His briefcase gleaming like a weapon under the streetlight, his tie knotted with precision. I stayed inside watching. The cam's lens capturing their agitation in ultra-clear detail, the way Daniel's fist thudded against the door, the tremor in Claire's voice as she called my name, the lawyer's predatory grin as he adjusted his cufflinks. I didn't open the door. Instead, I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, and dialed my lawyer, Ms. Patel, a fierce advocate who'd handled my agency mergers with the precision of a seasoned pilot. Her voice a steady hum over the line. "Ms. Patel, they're here again. What do I do?" "Stay put. I've filed a restraining order. Police are coming." Her words were a lifeline, steadying my shaking hands as I watched the scene unfold. Soon, patrol cars arrived, lights flashing red and blue, sirens slicing the quiet like a knife through butter, the sound reverberating off the mountains. I watched through the window, curtains drawn tight as officers approached, their boots crunching snow. Daniel argued, his arms waving like a conductor losing control, his voice rising in pitch. Claire cried fake tears I now saw through, her mascara smudging down her cheeks like ink on wet paper. An officer knocked, his gloved hand rapping sharply. "Ma'am, you can come out. They're leaving." I stepped out, the snow biting my face, the cold a shock against my flushed cheeks, my breath visible in the dusk. Daniel yelled, "Maggie, we're family. This is insane." His voice cracking with desperation. Claire added, "Pay our debts." Her words a shrill demand that hung in the air. Ms. Patel intervened, her voice cutting through the wind, firm as a mountain ridge. "Contact through me. She's documented $54,000 in support. Sue if you dare." They left, glaring, their SUVs kicking up snow as they retreated, the taillights fading into the twilight like dying stars. That night, my friend Ruth, a 68-year-old widow with a knit scarf around her neck, her silver hair glinting in the porch light, brought soup. The aroma of chicken and thyme filling my kitchen with a homey warmth. "Heard the ruckus? You okay?" she asked, her voice soft as she set the pot on the stove. Over broth, the steam warming my face, I shared everything, the Hawaii Snub. The $54,000 tally, the lawyer's threat, the weight of it all pressing down like a heavy pack. Her eyes softened, crinkling with empathy, the lines of her face a map of shared struggles. "My brother tried that. Greed's a disease. Fight back with everything you've got." Her words fueled me, a spark in the dark, igniting a plan that had been simmering in my mind. The next day, Henry called my retired tour guide from Harper Horizons, his voice raspy from years of shouting over tour groups, the gravelly tone a reminder of our shared adventures. "Maggie, got a lead. Meet me at the diner 10 a.m. It's at the Greasy Spoon. The air thick with the scent of bacon and burnt coffee. The Formica tables worn from countless elbows." Henry slid into the booth, a file in his calloused hands, the paper edges frayed from handling. His once boyish face, now lined from years chasing leads under the sun, carried a grim set, his eyes shadowed with concern. "Started with their trips," he said, sipping black coffee that stained his teeth, the cup trembling slightly. "Daniel and Claire's bookings. Visa fraud. Fake passports for clients, skimming profits. Claire's sister, Lila, is in on it, handles the forgeries. Lala too eager at past reunions, her hands always clutching a phone, her smile too wide. Her presence a shadow I'd overlooked. Proof?" I asked, leaning forward, my heart pounding. "Working on bank records. Bait them with a fake trip offer. I planned a reconciliation cruise, rigging a tainted cocktail with a safe emetic food-grade ipecac, inducing nausea but harmless to test Lila, a move born from desperation and cunning. I called Daniel, voice honeyed to mask my intent. "Let's mend this. Cruise next week, bring Claire." "Lila," he agreed, hesitant, his voice tight, the pause heavy with suspicion. "Dr. Nguyen, a friend from my agency days. Cleared my cognition after tests memory exercises, recalling every route I'd planned from Seattle to Sydney. Math problems, balancing budgets down to the last cent. Reasoning debates on travel logistics that stretched my mind." "Sharp as ever, Maggie," she said, her stethoscope cold against my chest, her smile reassuring. Ms. Patel prepped the case, her office a fortress of legal texts, the air thick with the scent of ink and paper. The cruise night arrived, the air salty with anticipation as I boarded a chartered yacht, the deck swaying underfoot, the sea a dark mirror reflecting the stars. I served Lila the cocktail, her glass clinking against mine, her eyes suspicious as she took a sip, the liquid glinting under the deck lights. She gagged, rushing to the rail, retching over the side, the sound carried away by the wind. Daniel roared, "You poisoned her!" His voice a thunderclap. "No," I said, calm as the waves lapping the hull. "A test. Call police." Claire paled, her designer sunglasses slipping, her face a mask of shock. They fled, but Henry's hidden cam caught it. The footage a treasure trove of their unraveling weeks later. Henry uncovered their ring $300,000 in fraud. Forged visas for wealthy clients seeking escapes to Bali and Dubai. Leela's arrest record from a passport scam in Florida. The details spilling out like a spilled suitcase. They'd planned guardianship with fake memory lapse videos, edited from old footage of me tripping on a tour in Peru, spliced to look like dementia. The cuts clumsy but convincing to the untrained eye. Ms. Patel countersued, her strategy a map to victory. Their preemptive guardianship claim failed when I proved my clarity with Elizruth, Dr. Nguyen, ex-staff who'd seen Daniel's shady bookings. Their testimonies a chorus of support in court. Daniel and Claire's lawyer claimed my paranoia justified control, showing the videos on a projector. The grainy images flickering on the wall. Ms. Patel countered with the fraud $300,000. Forged passports traced to a printer in Boise. Emails plotting my ruin. The words warehouse, the old lady stark on the screen. The judge, a 62-year-old woman with a no-nonsense gaze. Her gray hair pulled into a tight bun, ruled exploitation clear. Guardianship denied. Fraud charges filed. They were cuffed, stunned, their empire crumbling like sandcastles under the tide. My twist? I founded a senior travel fund with my $20 million. Disinheriting Daniel, his name erased from my will like a canceled flight. At 70, I lead tours rediscovering joy in every horizon. The mountains of Idaho giving way to the beaches of California, the trails of Colorado. The Excluded holiday. It mapped my new path, a journey of self-redemption under skies once shared with Tom. Subscribe. Donate to Elder Travel, comment Excluded before. Where are you from? Until next time.